one of the pledges by Donald Trump as a candidate in 2016.
We're going to put the miners back to work. We're going to put the miners back to work.
A Trump administration will end this war on the American worker and unleash an energy revolution that will bring vast new wealth to our country.
New wealth, new jobs. Let's start with the facts as we do around here. Do you know whether Donald Trump's administration has overseen any new net coal jobs?
I don't know coal specifically, but I can't speak to energy broadly. And the United States has become...
Coal, and then, as always, I'll give you time, but since I asked, I'll show you. Okay. This is the results on coal, even before you hit into the COVID recession. They haven't added any new coal jobs. They're down about 900. What do you say, as a representative of the campaign, to these coal workers who are looking at this broken pledge?
Well, look, when it comes to jobs, this president has not broken any pledges. As a matter of fact, I would argue that before the COVID virus hit us, before we were hit with this economic meteor from China, Donald Trump had built the greatest economy in American history, particularly for wage earners, particularly for laborers, for blue-collar Americans. They saw their wages, for example.
And I thought, Steve, you might go there, and let's get into it, because you're making a claim. Your claim's not you like Donald Trump better, which is fine. This is America. You're free to have that view. But you're making an empirical claim that this was the greatest jobs program ever. You said ever in history. We'll just look at the previous administration.
Particularly for blue-collar workers. Yes, correct.
Sure. Well, let me be as precise as possible, because COVID recession obviously does change things. So we'll look even pre-recession. Do you know roughly how many new jobs the Obama administration added?
All right, I'm not going to play quiz show. What I will tell you is this. Blue-collar wages outpaced
white. It is a news show. We are going to play news show. That's where there are facts and there are questions. I'm going to give you the ball back. I'm going to give you the ball back, Steve. Steve, I'm going to give you the ball back. But first, whether you can answer it or not, I will just tell you, because it sounds like you don't want to play news show. It was about 11 million jobs created. And let's compare. Pre-COVID, to be as fair as possible, it was about 6.7 million jobs created under the Trump administration. So by that standard, I wouldn't say greatest in history. I would say less than the prior administration. Your response?
Well, my response, Ari, is that it's not just the number of jobs. That's obviously critically important. We do want to add a lot of jobs, but it's also the quality of those jobs. And it is also particularly to deliver to the groups who previously lagged. And what I mean by that is during the slow growth Obama era, it was a slog for working class Americans. They saw their wages, unfortunately, languish through that entire slow growth era. It was an economy that rewarded the owners of assets. They did incredibly well if you owned a lot of stocks and real estate before Donald Trump. These are the forces, by the way, which largely led to the populist nationalist surge that elected Donald Trump. He promised to return prosperity to blue-collar workers, and he did exactly that, because for the first 3 years of his administration, into this year, I mean, we were enjoying the fruits of the Trump boom as recently as January of this year, before the Chinese Communist Party unfortunately unleashed this virus on the world and knowingly deceived the world about the infection potential.
What do you mean when you say the Communist Party released the virus? Are you putting forth the conspiracy theory that a government made the virus, or what are you trying to say?
I am not. I'm saying, and we know this now with Secretary Pompeo, many people in U.S. government intelligence have told us this. We know that the Chinese knew affirmatively as far back as last year that there was human-to-human transmission. They lied to the world and said there wasn't. They used the W Health organization, unfortunately, as their toady medical imprimatur to give them a pseudo-stamp of approval.
It's a government-made virus.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is what the Chinese Communist Party did do is lie to the world about the transmission. They also protected the country of China domestically. They sealed off Wuhan so that Chinese citizens from Wuhan could not travel to Shanghai and Beijing, but they could travel to San Francisco and New York and Italy.
The other big story out of Washington, as you know, is the Republican Senate did not move on these jobs or COVID relief benefits. So you've got people now who lost jobs for no fault of their own. That's one thing that Trump and Biden at least have agreed on, right? COVID recession.
Right.
What do you say to those people that this president and this party, Republican Party, controls the White House, controls the Senate, and right now they don't get any extension of this relief money? Is that with you and the Trump campaign? Is that okay?
No, it's not okay with the president. It's certainly not okay with me, and it's not okay, most importantly, with a lot of Americans out there who are understandably worried. The president's been very forceful and clear on this. He wants a package. Now, there's negotiations ongoing, as you well know. Steve Mnuchin, as far as the administration side of the equation, is leading those negotiations. But we are confident that something reasonable will come out of the Congress. If it does not, because of the intransigence of a lot of folks on Capitol Hill, then the president has said he will look at what he can do unilaterally through executive order, things like he mentioned it today in his press conference, like perhaps suspending the payroll tax on his own.
Before we run out of time, Stephen, as you know, I appreciate everyone. I appreciate you coming in and taking the questions. People can make up their own mind about the answers. We did want to raise something you said that got some notice within the context of Donald Trump and the Justice Department deploying some of these agents around the country. As you know, a lot of debates over use of force. Let's play in your own words what you said.
If Trump were the fascist that they pretend that he is, wouldn't he have cracked down much, much harder on arrest in American streets? To be quite honest, when there were people being bloodied, cops being attacked, businesses being smashed, I could have used a tad bit more of a fascist Trump, to be honest.
As a representative of the campaign during these very serious times, what do you mean that you would like a, quote, bit more of a fascist Trump, end quote?
Ari, I think it's very clear. You can hear me laughing there. I'm making a joke. I'm exaggerating for a point of emphasis. And my point there was that critics of Donald Trump always claim that he is a fascist. Of course, he's not, and he's not even close. But I was making the point that we actually, in my view, and by the way, I was not working for the campaign at that time. This was my radio show a few months ago. But I was making the point that, if anything, I think we could have used a more forceful response against violent protesters across, well, not protesters, violent rioters across the country who were harming cops, attacking innocent people, and destroying businesses around this country.
You're making a bit of a joke defense, and people can take that at face value or not. Fascism, though, does refer to the government's use of force and power, and you have, of course, protests about government at the federal and local level. The Trump administration is not in charge of Minnesota, but government use of force, and some of it will be litigated in the courts.
And the point
actually is murder. So you can understand, Steve, why someone hears that and says, "What do you mean more fascist?"
No, well, look, again, clearly I was kidding. I was with a caller on talk radio. You can hear me laughing. Look, at the Daily Beast, which, I give absolutely zero credence to. It's a fake publication full of a bunch of activists masquerading as journalists, tried to make a story about this. I am not the story. The point I was making there on my radio show, though, was that the critics of President Trump love to lob these ridiculous accusations at him. For example, that he's a fascist. And here's my point. Here's what I would tell you conclusively from today, Ari. They are going to call us racist no matter what we do. They're going to call us fascist no matter what we do. So my answer is, let's just do the right thing. Let's pursue the right policies from here, and let's ignore these kind of nattering nabobs of negativism, if I can channel a phrase from way back in the 1970s from people like the Daily Beast.
Well, look, no one in this interview brought up racism or the Daily Beast, but you're free to use your time how you see fit. And again, appreciate you taking the questions. Steve Cortez from the Trump campaign. I hope you'll come back.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.